jumping or something. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Omaha World Herald Saturday morning reading. Jean's here with me, and I'm so lucky. It's Saturday, May 28th, and from the headlines, a slice of Africa. Chapter may end for downtown library. And let's start with some, I don't know. Let's just start with some local news.
Yeah, that's important.
From Des Moines. The possibility of an American Indian burial site in northwest Iowa may require relocation of a crude oil pipeline route and delay the beginning of construction in Iowa.
I love it.
Only 1 hour of one of 4 states where work hasn't begun. The Dakota Access Pipeline passes through the Big Sioux Wildlife Management Area in Lyon County, traditional homeland for the Dakota Sioux, where Standing Rock Sioux tribal leaders say there is a burial site. The site has been identified by the tribe as of historical and cultural significance with associated burial activities, said state archaeologist Don Dorschach. Under the state law, Dorschach must now study the area to determine whether it is more than 150 years old. If so, it is considered ancient burial grounds, and he is obliged under law to protect it from disturbance. The wildlife area is managed by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service owns the property. The federal agency in March granted Iowa permission to issue a permit for the pipeline to run through the area, but on Wednesday informed state agency the permit was revoked due to the discovery.
The American Indians have been, touting that too.
Well, I can understand. On Thursday, the state sent a stop work order letter to the Dakota Access contractor. Houston-based Dakota Access LLC wants to build the 1,150-mile pipeline from northwest North Dakota to a storage facility in central Illinois. Construction on the $3.8 billion project has begun in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Illinois, but the Iowa Utilities Board has not yet authorized work to begin. A spokeswoman for the Dakota Access said the project isn't affected because work has not yet begun in Iowa. We are aware of the rumors of potential archaeological site along the route, which has not been confirmed, said Lisa Dillinger. If something is confirmed in the area, we will work with the appropriate agencies to make any necessary adjustments.
Wow. And waging war on the cockroach of mosquitoes.
Ooh.
In Los Angeles, Randy Garcia points a flashlight into a bush and shakes the leaves. Martin Serrano climbs a ladder to peer into rain gutters. He ducks under stairs and flips over a plastic tarp that is collecting water. In a backyard here, resembling a small jungle, the team searches for its target. Serrano and Garcia spot a tub filled with rainwater with leaves floating on the top. There's movement just below the surface, hundreds of swimming creatures like tiny tadpoles. Then something flies out of the water inches from their faces. It's an Aedes mosquito, the villain in the Zika virus epidemic. It has broken out in dozens of countries this year. Nationwide, mosquito control workers like these are waging a war against the insects, but it will be very difficult to win. Aedes mosquitoes, which aren't native to the Americas, are hardier than the usual mosquitoes. Officials have struggled to curb their spread with the threat of Zika virus looming and summer approaching. It's a very, very serious, said Edward McCabe, chief medical officer. We wouldn't want LA to turn out to be ground zero for an epidemic of Zika. Although parts of Texas and Florida are at high risk for the Zika virus, health officials warn that outbreaks could be expected this summer across the United States. Experts say that limiting mosquito populations is the first line of defense. Zika spreads when Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, bites an infected person, then bites another. Unlike most types of mosquitoes that prefer the blood of animals, Aedes like to bite humans. With other kinds of mosquitoes, one worker in a truck could spray a quarter of a small city with pesticide in one night and eliminate most of the bugs. But spraying doesn't work well against the Aedes mosquitoes. They like to breed in tiny pools of water near humans. Their eggs usually need to be destroyed by hand. So to cover that same area, you need 10 people working for a week, door to door. On the recent morning mission, Serrano and Garcia, the skeeter specialist with Greater Los Angeles, dumped out the water and the larvae into a tub. Garcia drilled holes in its bottom, as well as in other buckets in the yard. They're diligent about eliminating places where water can collect. These mosquitoes can breed in as little as a teaspoon of water. We have seen them in Dorito wrappers. The mosquitoes tend to lay their eggs so small they're nearly invisible to humans at the water line of such containers. The eggs can survive several months of drought, waiting to hatch when they come in contact with water. When the Sahara dried up and became a desert thousands of years ago, the Ascites mosquitoes evolved to survive without natural source of water, breached by using the water in pots outside of people's homes. They're so hard to eradicate because they're especially domesticated. Unlike the more common mosquito that comes out at dawn and dusk, Ascites bite during the day when people are active. Often considered the cockroach of mosquitoes, they can survive inside of people's homes. These aggressive, invasive mosquitoes have become a burden for insect control agencies in California. In the Central Valley, mosquito workers were baffled when Ascites first showed up in 2013. Steve Mulligan, head of vector control for parts of the county, said they were even more surprised when they weren't able to stop the mosquito spread. It really does not lend itself to control with conventional methods. The agency is trying a new tactic. It plans to release male mosquitoes that are infected with a bacteria that prevents eggs from hatching.
Oh, that might be.
I didn't know that they can lie dormant for months in drought, and then, oh my God.
They need to
Oh
go
my
away.
gosh.
And from Beijing, just to climb home from school, they climb more than 2,500 feet toward the sky on a ladder made of bamboo and secured to a sheer cliff face. After pictures surfaced of the challenging trek that school children face in a poor corner of China's mountainous west, may be getting some help, a solid set of steel stairs. The hardship of residents in the village of Atulir in Sichuan province underscores the vast gap between China's prosperous modern east and parts of the remote west that remain mired in poverty. The bamboo ladder is the only way 15 children, ages 6 to 15, have of getting to their village when they return home every 2 weeks from their boarding school. Locals say the ladders have been there nearly as long as the village. We replace a ladder with a new one when we find one of them is rotten, one of the villagers said. Of the 72 families that live in the village are members of the Yi minority group. They subsist mainly on farming potatoes, walnuts, and chili peppers. A press release Friday from the Langshan prefectural government, which oversees the region, said a new set of stairs would be built as a stopgap while officials eye longer-term solutions. The press release quoted local residents as saying that in addition to the safety issue, the ladder exposes villagers to exploitation because traders know they cannot carry their unsold produce back up the cliff.
Wow.
So the most important issue at hand is to solve the transport issue. That will allow us to make a larger scale plans about opening up the economy and looking for opportunities in tourism, said the County Communist Party Secretary General. One village official said that over the years, 7 or 8 people had fallen to their deaths while using the ladder.
Okay.
A team of 50 officials from the county government's Transport, Education, and Environmental Protection Department traveled to the area this week to assess the situation, the Global Times reported on Friday. It said the county is considering whether to build a road to the village, although the cost would be exorbitant for such a poor region. China pulled almost 700 million people out of poverty through economic reforms made in the 1980s. It says less than 10% of the population still suffers from extreme privation. Most of China's poorest people are from minority groups that have long been marginalized or are farmers or herders, living in the mountainous southwest where rope bridges, canoes, and cliffside ladders remain crucial ways to reach the outside world. And I am telling you, there's a picture of this cliff here, and it
my
is
God.
sheer, and you can see the children climbing their
They
way up
Make a
on
school
this
up on top instead
ladder.
of on the bottom.
Boy, there you go. Gee, that might be cheaper than even building a road, right? Anyway, and then from Kathmandu, I'm going to go to another article since that was a little short. From Nepal, climbers on Friday found the body of one of two Indians who went missing last week near the top of Mount Everest. Meanwhile, a helicopter brought back the body of an Australian woman who died on the mountain. Worsening weather was forcing everyone to descend to safety, with the last missing climber presumed dead. The discovery of Paris Chandra Nath's body brought the official Everest death toll this year to 4. Climbers found Nath's body near the 29,035-foot summit and carried it to camp number 4. It's uncertain if or when the body would be brought down. Nearly 400 foreign climbers and Sherpa guides have made it to the top of Everest this year.
And some shorts from The Nation. In New York, a World War II vintage plane celebrating its 75th anniversary crashed in the Hudson River. Police recovered a body from the single plane late in the day. The P-47 Thunderbolt crashed on a part of the river near where a commercial jet carrying 155 people splashed down in 2009. In Cincinnati, Henry Heinrich, a 96-year-old surgeon credited with developing his namesake, the Heimlich maneuver, used the emergency technique for the first time himself to save a woman choking on food at his senior living center. Heinrich said he has demonstrated the widely known maneuver many times since he developed it in the 1970s. He had never performed it himself on anyone who was choking. The whole thing was very moving to me, he said. I never thought that I would be saving someone's life. The retired chest surgeon was in the dining room at the Dupree House in Cincinnati, where he lives. An 87-year-old woman began choking Monday night. The Heimlich said Friday that he was having dinner when he looked over at the woman sitting next to him and could see that her face was turning pink and she was choking. He said he got up behind her and began the technique, and a piece of meat popped out. That's amazing.
Oh.
In Cape Canaveral, NASA is taking a second crack at inflating an experimental room at the space station. Flight controllers, along with the astronauts, will try again today to expand the world's first soft-sided compartment for space travelers. Thursday's effort was halted after the pod barely grew in size when the air was let in. Officials said reporters Friday that friction along the fabric probably kept it from expanding. And a long-running Navy corruption scandal reached new heights Friday as a lieutenant commander and 2 retired officers were arrested. They were arrested on federal charges of feeding inside information to a Singapore-based defense contractor. All 3 defendants are accused of acting as paid moles for the contractor. Glenn Defense Marine Asia has been leaking intelligence about criminal investigations. The new cases bring the number of people charged in the scandal to 14. Prosecutors have said that as many as 200 people are under investigation. In Cape Canaveral, SpaceX pulled off another rocket landing Friday. The first stage boosters of the unmanned rocket settled into a barge 400 miles off Florida's coast. The touchdown occurred after the rocket launched an Asian communications satellite. No one was aboard the barge. In Greenbelt, Maryland, a North Carolina man has pleaded guilty to receiving and settling misbranded silicone for buttock injections that led to a woman's death. Federal prosecutors announced Friday that Vinnie Taylor, 44, of Wilmington, admitted that he gave women injections to enhance their buttocks.
Oh.
He is not a medical practitioner.
Really?
In Los Angeles, autopsies released Friday of the 14 victims of the San Bernardino terror attack confirmed that all died quickly after being shot at least twice. The county made public the autopsies, though heavily edited. Victims of the December 2nd attack were public health workers attending a training session. And one last one here. The Kansas Supreme Court on Friday rejected some education funding changes enacted by the legislature earlier in the year. It threatened to order the state's public schools closed if lawmakers don't act by June 30th. The court ruled on a law that revised parts of the state's funding formula, but resulted in no change in total funds.
And in some world briefs, from Athens, Greece, on his first trip to a European Union country this year, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday sharply criticized Western policy toward Moscow, describing a newly expanded U.S. missile defense system as a threat to his country's security and vowing to retaliate. Putin arrived in Athens on a 2-day visit and emerged from talks with the Greek government to lash the United States and NATO allies, accusing them of stifling trade and energy cooperation with Russia. Earlier this month, the U.S. defense system was declared operational at a site in Romania, drawing an angry reaction from Russia. NATO says the system is purely defensive, a response to growing ballistic missile capabilities globally. We keep hearing that it's not a threat against Russia, that it's not aimed at Russia, Putin said late Friday. Of course it is. It's a threat to us. It can easily be modified to have an aggressive capability. And from Beirut, Islamic State fighters on Friday seized a string of villages from Syrian rebels near the Turkish border, in rapid advances that forced the evacuation of a hospital and trapped tens of thousands of people amid heavy fighting. Syrian opposition activists and an international medical organization said. The advances in the northern Aleppo province brought the Islamic State within 2 miles of the rebel-held town of Azaz and cut off supplies to Maria, farther south, another rebel stronghold north of Aleppo city. Human Rights Watch said about 165,000 civilians were trapped near the Turkish border as a result of the fighting. And from Buenos Aires, Argentina, Argentina's last dictator and 14 other military officials were sentenced Friday to prison for human rights crimes committed during the Operation Condor conspiracy to hunt down dissidents across South America and beyond. Operation Condor was launched in the 1970s by 6 South American dictators who used their secret police networks in a coordinated effort to track down their opponents across the borders and eliminate them. An Argentine court on Friday sentenced former junta leader Ronaldo Bignon, 88, to 20 years in prison for taking part in illicit association, kidnapping, and abusing his powers in the forced disappearance of more than 100 people. He already is in prison for various other crimes during his power. And from Rome, in some sad news, an Italian Navy said Friday that it saved, in some good part, 135 migrants from a sinking boat, but recovered 45 bodies in the Mediterranean. The Navy said earlier Friday that it was aiding the partly sunken boat in the sea between Libya and Italy, a route used by smugglers. Smugglers taking advantage of calm seas have sent dozens of boats toward Italy this week. And finally, from the Philippines, in Manila, Philippine lawmakers completed the official vote count from May 9th elections on Friday and announced that Mayor Rodrigo Duterte won the presidency by an overwhelming margin. Representative Lino Robredo triumphed as vice president. Duterte, the tough-talking mayor of the southern Davao City, received more than 16.6 million votes, 6.6 million more than the closest rival, former Interior Secretary Mar Roxas, who was backed by outgoing President Aquino III. Robredo received just 263,000 votes more than Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son of the former dictator.
And China is isolating itself, the U.S. defense chief says. China could be erecting a great wall of self-isolation with its increasingly moves against its neighbors. Carter focused on the Asian-Pacific region during his commencement speech at the U.S. Navy Academy. He said China wants and enjoys the benefits of free trade and free internet, but sometimes chooses to restrict both. The result is that China's actions could erect a great wall of self-isolation in countries across the region. Allies, partners, and the unaligned are voicing concerns publicly and privately. Such a model reflects the region's distant past rather than the future. China has sought to strengthen its claim to almost the entire South China Sea by building new islands atop coral outcroppings and adding airstrips, harbors, and military infrastructure. The U.S. government refuses to recognize these features as supporting the same legal claim as real islands. While it takes no formal position, it insists that all nations enjoy the right to freely sail and fly through this vital area. The United States is committed to upholding the freedom of navigation and commerce. We're committed to ensuring that these core principles apply equally to the South China Sea. Only by ensuring that everyone plays by the same rules can we avoid the mistakes of the past. Carter said that although China wants the South China Sea to be handled separately from the broader U.S.-China relationship, the United States cannot do such a thing. China's actions there challenge fundamental principles. The Defense Secretary pointed out that many of the year's 1,076 academic graduates will join the 365,000 service members already in that region. Carter also praised the Academy for working to create a top-notch learning environment. In 2011, the Academy began requiring 2 cybersecurity courses for all students. This year, 27 students graduated. Also, female students who graduated wore pants instead of skirts. The idea is uniformity across the ranks. This is the 40th class to include women. The Academy first admitted female students in 1976. This year's incoming class was 28% women.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's cool. And for decades, the W. Dale Clark Library has occupied a prized spot of downtown Omaha at the corner of 14th and Douglas Streets at the west end of the Jean Leahy Mall. The library was touted as a centerpiece of downtown development when built in the 1970s. It was seen as an exciting place and a replacement for the old downtown library at 19th and Harney Streets. 40 years later, the W. Dale Clark Library is in need of immediate improvements, and city leaders are now openly talking about shuttering it to make way for a downtown redevelopment and a state-of-the-art replacement. Although there's no timeline for when that might happen, Mayor Gene Stothert has asked for an appraisal to figure out how much the library site is worth. Library officials say a new main library would allow them to do more with technology that wasn't around when the W. Dale Clark Library was built. Stothert mentioned that the site of the closed Civic Auditorium, which is slated for redevelopment, is a good spot for a new downtown library. If everything came together, it would be a wonderful thing, said Library Director Laura Marlane. I think the public would appreciate the opportunity to have a facility that's designed to meet their needs now. The site on which the downtown library now sits has long been viewed as a prime spot for development.
Somebody wants it.
Yeah. The city's downtown master plan, updated in 2000 now, lists the sites as one of the best development sites for potential office towers. The plan recommends that the city sell the downtown library and use the money for a new high-tech, right-sized main branch library and a new, more strategic location. More recently, city officials showed the site to HDR as a prospective spot for its new headquarters. The company didn't choose that site, although it has reopened its search after backing out of its first choice. Stothert hasn't given up the idea of selling the library site for development. The appraisal is scheduled to be finished this month. This is just a perfect time to get it appraised again and look at selling it and building a new downtown library, she said. Mike Meyer, president of the Library Board of Trustees, said he'd like the board to draw up a new facilities master plan before any decision is made. The board has been talking about updating its plan, which Meyer said it would cost about $40,000. He said he would like to see the library remain at its current site, perhaps as the first few floors of a new office tower. I'd love to see the new library downtown, but I'd love to see it in the existing site unless a third party provides persuasive evidence that it could be somewhere else. Stothert, on the other hand, sees the Civic site at 18th and Capitol Avenue as a prime downtown location. The Civic is set to be demolished, and Stothert has chosen the Omaha-based Tetrad Property Group to redevelop the site. Tetrad has proposed a commercial project with office tower, apartments, shops, restaurants, as well as a civic component. Stothert said she expects that Tetrad will need about 2 years to develop the civic site. In the meantime, she said, no sale of the library's 14th and Douglas property is imminent. The city doesn't have a buyer in mind. Without a building design, there's no cost estimate for building a new downtown library. But Stothard said she'd like to start the discussions this summer. She said the library director and the library board will be involved in any decisions. Tetrad officials did not return a phone message this week about whether their plans for a civic site could include a library. W. Dale Clark Library opened in 1977 at 215 South 15th Street, replacing the old downtown library that had been at 19th and Harney Street since 1894. Named after businessmen who served on the boards of the Omaha National Bank and the World Herald, the library was envisioned as part of the revitalization of downtown. Then U.S. Representative John Kavanaugh spoke at the dedication, saying the library was the cornerstone for rebuilding the heart of the city. Creighton University professor Eileen Worth, who was a World Herald reporter when the library opened and later served on the library board of trustees, said she was excited to see the W. Dale Clark branch open. The previous library had a beautiful facade, but no air conditioning and a small bathroom, she said.
Oh, I used to go to the old library.
It's beautiful on the outside, but
It has all those beautiful figures around the top, you know, the authors.
yeah. Oh, really? And then
Clear
the
at
wood,
top
I
of
bet
the
was
building,
beautiful.
out on the outside, if you ever look.
Oh my goodness. Well, and she says, I just remember all that out of us were all beyond giddy at the prospect of a better downtown library. And that and by God, it was going to have parking, she said. That's true. The old library didn't have very much parking.
It had none.
We're said the library-loving Omahans, including then Milton R. Abrams. Remember, this used to be the Milton R. Abrams building that we're in, had advocated for new downtown library for years. It finally came down to fruition during a push to redevelop downtown, a push that included the creation of what is now the Jean Leahy Mall. All of a sudden, two obvious needs came together, and the new downtown library became a centerpiece of downtown redevelopment.
Something that the old Council Bus Library and the old one Omaha had in common, they had real rare books on the second floor, and they built a glass floor so that the library could watch and make sure nobody got into that area to steal those real rare books.
Wow.
And you could look up and see the people's, feet.
That's unusual.
It was,
it?
yeah. Council Bus had one. It's kind of a weird.
But it's modern, but unusual.
Oh, but that was way back then, yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
And a slice of Africa. And the front page shows a giraffe's head. And I don't know if that's some kids climbing on some rocks at the zoo. It says human animals marvel at the zoo's new exhibit. A crowd of almost 200 people gathered at the gate of the zoo's new African grasslands. They hope for a glimpse of something that feels like Africa. The Henry Dorley Zoo, an aquarium's largest, most expensive, most anticipated exhibit, officially opened to the public Friday morning. It promises a savanna teeming with animals living together just like in Africa. Elephants will share a watering hole with zebras and impalas. Ooh. Giraffes will share a yard with rhinos and ostriches. Lions will roar from the top. Oh, wow, I've got to go to the zoo. The zoo delivered on its promise to open the 28-acre, $73 million exhibit by Memorial Day weekend. But rain and construction delays meant that many of the marquee animals had to be held inside, and some of them were out of sight completely. I can't risk the animals out there right now. Elephants and giraffes stayed indoors most of Friday because of slippery conditions. Lions, zebras, impalas, rhinos, and others were off exhibit altogether. Construction workers were still installing the fences to keep the lions, impalas, and zebras enclosed. Elsewhere, shy cheetahs stayed put in their overnight barn despite having full access to the outdoor yard. It must not like rain. And bongos snuggled up in the shade, hard to spot. Missing meerkats due to, meerkats are those little animals that stand up on
I
hind
love those, yes, like my dog.
Yeah, they're cute little things. Let's see, where are we? I think go ahead. I'll let you go ahead. I don't know where I left off there.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so now we're going to go to, again, some more local news. And this is interesting. It says, excitement heats up for pool's season premiere. Spray ground or swimming pool? When the question is posed to Eddie Minardi, 6, or Amelia Viborni, 9, both answer pool immediately. But Eddie said he does like the sun-shaped rainbow arches that spray water at the Morton Spray Ground on South 41st Street in Omaha. Amelia said she likes being able to walk the Morton Spray Ground from her house. Oh, walk to the spray ground. And the bucket that tips over when full and pours water on kids standing underneath
that's
it.
cute.
So yes, Eddie and Amelia said they both like pools and splash grounds and they hope to visit one soon. They're in luck. Many pools, aquatic centers, and splash grounds in the area are opening this weekend, and still more will open in the coming weeks. Highs are expected to be in the mid-70s and 80s lower this weekend. There's a 40% chance of showers and thunderstorms on Saturday and on Memorial Day, according to the forecast from the National Weather Service. Neighborhood splash pads are a trend in the recreation industry, and they keep popping up in cities throughout the area. The city of Papillion opened another splash pad last year and in the Eagle Ridge neighborhood. And the city of Omaha opened another spray ground in Benson last year, bringing the city's total to 9. Fremont's fourth and newest splash pad will be turned on today in Van Anda Park at Lincoln Avenue and Pebble Street. Daniel Sater, Director of Parks and Recreation for the city of Fremont, said the splash pads are seen as an extension of playgrounds, giving kids and parents more options. Kids have more to do in the parks, and parents don't have to pay the admission fee to get to the pool. On Friday morning, Eddie and Amelia were swinging on the swings and running around on the playground equipment near Hastings Banner Park, near 50th and Virginia Streets with Eddie's aunt. The park is the future site of Bellevue's first splash pad, which is expected to be turned on later this summer. Minardi said she thinks kids will have a little bit more fun at the spray grounds. The kids can run around more, and there are no required breaks as there are at the pool, especially for the smaller kids. It works great. No really danger of drowning with those. That's another thing that's nice.
Oh, I found the rest of the zoo here.
Oh, good.
There's a huge building up on stilts with kind of an African woven top, and spectators can stand there and look out over this huge area. We're so lucky to have that much land to develop our zoo.
Yes, we are.
The lack of animals in some sections didn't raise much protest from visitors. Most marveled at the convincing African landscape. They petted African pygmy goats, watched sable antelope perched near the fence, and crowded into the elephant building to see 5 of the zoo's 6 new African giants. Male elephant Warren is nursing an ankle injury. It's beautiful. It's going to be unbelievable, said one viewer. It would have been cool to see the lions outdoors, but it's still great. Gertrude's son, 9-year-old Ryder, hoped to see African spurred tortoises. Turtles are his favorite animal, but the animals had been removed from their enclosures. It feels like a zoo that's building Africa, Ryder said. Just after 10:30 a.m., a person with a microphone in front of a dense crowd of onlookers, donors, President John Boyer of the zoo, and City Councilman Gary Gernhant joined 19 children from the zoo's summer camp in cutting the ribbon on the exhibit. I came to what was back then called the Riverview Park Zoo, Gerhart said. They had 3 animals. There was a hairless monkey, a bear with no teeth, and to this day I can't figure out what that third one was. We went to that old zoo. It was horrible.
Oh.
But now I'm a 70-year-old kid, and this is awesome. The zoo's summer campers made their way through the exhibit, snaking past the giraffes and the elephant yard. There was a little girl who brushed a goat of equal size past a Columbian mammoth exhibit across a new lagoon bridge and up a hill. It's really cool. The rocks look real. The zoo hasn't hidden its new project from the public. During construction, visitors have been able to watch its progress. But on Friday, the ribbon cutting unveiled the rock and all the exhibits atop the former hill. They call it Pachyderm Hill. Pate said he expects the rest of the animals to go on display over the next few days. You go through phases, he told the crowd, and then when it's close to getting done, you always wish you had more time.
Oh, and the police. Let's talk about their new body cameras. Your next encounter with a police officer could be filmed.
Wow.
Officers in the Omaha Police Department have begun to wear body cameras. A total of 115 cameras will roll out to Omaha streets in the next few weeks. Officers say the video footage can provide an additional account of an incident, will strengthen community relations, and will reduce complaints against police. The Bureau of Justice Assistance 2015 study of the Phoenix Police Department found that body-worn cameras reduce complaints against officers by 23% and improve processing of domestic violence incidents. It also said officers found the cameras easy to use over time. We feel it's really an added layer of transparency to provide extra details of what occurred on a radio call, said Deputy Police Chief Greg Gonzalez. It's an added benefit for the public to know how we're going outside of our police cruisers. Yet, much like the cruiser recordings, video footage that comes from the body cameras won't be available to the public unless it's entered or needed as evidence in court, a court case, or Chief Todd Schmader authorizes its release per departmental policy. A study of body cameras by the Police Executive Research Forum, a national police research organization, recommends a broad policy to promote agency transparency and accountability. If they're not public, you can't see what's happened, said Sam Walker, emeritus professor of the School of Criminology at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. You're losing all of the supposed benefits of improved community relations. According to the department's policy, recorded video is considered investigative in nature, which exempts it from Nebraska's public records law. According to the department policy, recorded video, Walker contends that the recording of an encounter between officers and the public is an occurrence, not an investigation. Omaha Police Lieutenant George Merrithew said the U.S. Justice Department has endorsed the police department's policy, which was written by a committee members from the city and county attorney's offices, the city law department, and the research and planning unit, training staff, and senior command of the police. We would never release something that is inflammatory or incendiary or anything that could in any way interfere with an investigation, he said. Until the county attorney tells us it's not going to interfere with an investigation, we're going to err on the safe side. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The implementation of the body cameras in Omaha has been in the works since the mid-2013. Schmader has begun with the department. That's when they began the department research. A pilot program took place 2 years ago with test cameras. Gonzalez announced to the city council in December that the department had nearly $800,000 in private donations from Omaha Police Foundation that would pay for 115 cameras and storage for the next 5 years in a contract with Taser International. Officer Matt Austin, a training instructor, tested the chosen camera a couple of months ago on the streets. He said that one time he had told 4 people that he was recording and they said nothing about it. The majority of the public knows it's coming, he said. 22 officers and 9 supervisors from the Northwest Precinct and Gang Unit have received day-long body camera training at the Omaha Public Training Center. Many started using the camera on patrol this week after the training.
That's a good idea.
I think about 24 cameras will be given to each of the 4 precincts, and about 12 will go to the gang unit. Both rookie and veteran officers are using the cameras. The goal is full deployment in the next few years for all of the department's roughly 400 patrol officers.
They say there's only over 80 gangs in Omaha.
Each camera is assigned to one officer. Yes, yeah, it's amazing that Omaha's like that.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the country with the I-80 going through. And Nebraska Supreme Court, an inmate is still in a fight over the daughter he molested. A prison inmate gets to continue his legal fight to retain parental rights to the young daughter he sexually assaulted. A unanimous Nebraska Supreme Court on Friday sent the case back to the county court, where the girl's mother is trying to terminate the inmate's rights so the girl can be adopted by her stepfather. Until the lower court decides the adoption, however, no appeals will be heard. Lincoln County Judge Michael Piccolo ruled in 2014 that the inmate abandoned his children through his depraved choice to sexually molest his own daughter several times. Since 2009, the inmate has been serving a 16-year prison term in Missouri on 3 counts. Excuse me. Where are we? Seem to be having trouble following my. I'm sorry here.
No, do you want me to go ahead?
No, it should be over here. Oh, here we go. The girl was 6 when the man started the assaults. The inmate appealed the abandonment finding before the judge had decided whether the girl and her 2 brothers could be adopted by the stepfather. The Nebraska Court of Appeals overturned the county court on the grounds that there was not proof that the father had abandoned the children. The inmate presented evidence that he was current on $50 monthly child support payments. The mother said her children consider her current husband to be their father, and he has been a good provider. The Supreme Court said that with rare exceptions, it does not allow appeals in cases till a final court order has been sent. One exception to the rule would be if a party's rights would be significantly undermined or lost. Neither the Court of Appeals nor the Supreme Court has jurisdiction to decide. A study, I guess that's the end of that one.
Oh,
Yeah, it became too abrupt.
well, from Des Moines, millions of tiny wasps that are natural parasites for the emerald ash borer have been released into the wooded areas in 24 states as the battle against tree-killing borer is now biological. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has researched and approved for release 4 species of parasitic wasps that naturally target the larval and egg stages as of the ash borer, which has killed an estimated 38 million ash trees in urban and residential areas. The estimated cost of treating, removing, and replacing lost trees is about $25 billion.
That's something.
According to the report written by the USDA and the Forest Service entomologist
That's a hard one.
earlier this month. On average, federal and state resource managers spend more than $29 million per year to manage ash borer populations. The tiniest of wasps looks like a pepper flake on a white surface. It lays eggs inside ash borer eggs, preventing them from hatching.
Wow.
3 other wasps, one of the size of a giant gnat, lays eggs inside ash borer larvae, halting development into adult beetles. They were identified in China in 2002 and studied for several years before scientists concluded they could be safely released in the United States to fight the ash borer. The wasp release program in 24 of the 26 states where the ash borer has been found, said entomologist, Ben Slager, the manager of the laboratory in Brighton, Michigan, producing wasps run by the U.S. Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, a USDA agency. This isn't going to save anyone's tree in their yard or in the city. What we're working to do is protect the next generation coming up, Slager said. It's a really long-term management strategy. Iowa, the latest state to introduce the wasps, will begin distribution in the next few weeks, and 133 acres of timber near Fairfield, about 100 miles southeast of Des Moines.
And there's a lot of ceremonies going on today for Memorial Day at the different cemeteries. I just read a few of them here. Let's see. In Bellevue, the Eastern Nebraska Veterans Home, at 2 p.m. Monday, the USAF Heartland of America Brass Ensemble will perform a ringing of the bell. It will honor residents of the home who died during the past year. Staff will deliver remarks about the importance of recognizing veterans. And at the Bellevue Cemetery on Franklin Street, about 1 mile north of Mission Avenue, 11 a.m. on Monday, Veterans of Foreign Wars will host Bellevue's commemoration. It will include the Boy Scout Troop and a Cub Scout pack, the Sarpy Serenaders Barbershop Chorus, and taps performed by Kim and Carly Ingram. Also planned is presentation of the colors, individual service flags, and the laying of 5 wreaths on VFW ceremonies. And at 8 a.m. Monday, the Marine Corps League will put the American flag at Miguel Keith Park, 30th and Y Street at half-staff. The park is named after Keith, a U.S. Marine who posthumously received the United States' highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor. And something I didn't know, that Memorial Day was started right after the Civil War by the slaves who had been freed. And almost 10,000 of them marched in a parade to start Memorial Day. And a quarter of them, 2,500 of them, were children. And this was in Washington, D.C. And they were the ones who started Memorial Day.
I had no idea.
And then was picked up later by white people.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I had no idea.
No, I just read that in a little blurb. Yeah.
I had no idea.
I had no idea either. I thought it was started by somebody in the Congress or something. So it's kind of neat that they started it. Yeah.
That is kind of neat.
They did it in honor of the Union soldiers that died for them.
That's very, very cool. I'm gonna have to read more about that.
Yeah.
Well, mosquitoes are out, but don't fear Zika here, doctors say. All 8 of the reported cases of the virus in Nebraska and Iowa so far are travel related. People heading outside for the Memorial Day weekend can rest easy. Doctors at the medical center at the University of Nebraska said Friday that the Zika virus poses no immediate danger to Nebraskans and Iowans, despite warmer temperatures and the emergence of mosquitoes. The virus, which the World Health Organization, or WHO, declared an international public health emergency in February, has been reported primarily among people in South America and the Caribbean. That hasn't changed, said Dr. Mark Rupp, an infectious disease specialist at the Med Center. In Nebraska, 2 cases were reported earlier this year. 6 were reported in Iowa. In all 8 of those cases, the Zika patients had traveled to the countries where the virus was prevalent or had sexual contact with an infected traveler, the 2 ways the virus is known to spread. There have yet to be any mosquito-borne reports of the illness inside the United States.
That's good.
Any risk is travel-related, Rupp said. For most people, this virus has little impact. He added that local health experts are monitoring the situation should the risk change. What do you still need to know about Zika? Number 1, is it deadly? Only about 1 in 5 infected people develop symptoms, which usually are mild. Symptoms include mild fever, rash, red eyes, and muscle or joint pain. Rarely victims suffer neurological or autoimmune systems. Question, if Zika isn't deadly, then why the alarm? Last year, the Brazilian authorities established a tie between Zika virus and increasing cases of microcephaly in newborns. Microcephaly is the serious birth defect of the brain in which the baby's head is smaller than normal and there is brain damage. Is the mosquito that carries the virus in Nebraska? The Nebraska Health and Human Services Department has detected the Asian tiger mosquito, which can carry Zika in previous years. The department plans to set traps starting June 1st to determine how widespread the species is locally. The findings will be made public in mid-June. Officials do not plan to test the mosquitoes for Zika. And finally, should I be concerned? Officials see no cause for concern if you're traveling in the United States. Pregnant women and women trying to conceive should be aware that their partners could spread Zika to them through sexual contact if they've been in one of the affected countries. If traveling to South America or the Caribbean, talk to your doctor and take these precautions. Dress in breathable long-sleeve shirts, pants, and socks when outside. Drain standing water, which breeds mosquitoes. Use insect repellent with DET to ward off mosquitoes. Pregnant women should avoid traveling to the area where Zika is spreading.
I'm going to take it.
And we're now going to start with the deaths and funerals from the Omaha World Herald and then from Lincoln. Black Eyes. Tae Woo Danielle Day Black Eyes, aged 23, of Lincoln and Omaha. Memorial service, 3:30 p.m. Sunday, May 29th at the Lincoln Indian Center at 1100 Military Road in Lincoln. Suggest memorials to the Youth Emergency Services or Nebraska Children and Families Foundation instead of flowers. Christensen. Fred M. Christensen, age 85. Says visitation Monday, May 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. at the John A. Gentleman Mortuaries, 72nd Street Chapel, and they're handling the arrangements. Fain. Deborah J. Fain, age 52, of Jacksonville, Florida, perhaps formerly of Omaha. Says services are private family viewing on Tuesday, May 31st at 4 p.m. with public viewing from 5 to 7. The funeral is in June 1st at 1 p.m. at the Bellevue Memorial Chapel of Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler, and they are handling the arrangements. Gata, Josephine M. Gata, age 85, a massive Christian burial Saturday, May 28th at 10 a.m. at St. Thomas More Catholic Church. Arrangements by Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Green, Barbara J. Green, age 72, no services. Arrangements provided by the Good Shepherd Funeral Home. Hanson, Gary L. Hanson, age 71. A memorial service will be 10 a.m. Tuesday, May 31st at the Florence Christian Church at 7300 Northridge Drive. Memorials to the church, arrangements by Forest Lawn Funeral Home. Healy, Joanne M. Healy, a complete notice will be later, aged 84. Arrangements by the Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Jensen, Gregory Jean Jensen, age 67, and I apologize, there's a long article about Gregory, but there isn't any information about funeral or arrangements. Caven, Orrin Joseph Caven, age 94. Massive Christian burial Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. at St. Joan of Arc Church. Memorials to St. Joan of Arc Catholic Church or Creighton University. Arrangements by Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Leo, Thomas Munn Leo, age 88. Memorial service 10 a.m. Saturday at First Lutheran Church at South 31st Street. Memorials to the docent program at the Henry Dorley Zoo. Arrangements by the John A. Gentleman Mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel. Livingston, Julie M. Barnes Livingston, age 55. Memorial Mass will be 1 p.m. Monday, May 30th at St. Cecilia Cathedral. The family will direct memorials. Arrangements provided by the John A. Gentleman Mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel. Moorfeld, Melissa O. Moorfeld, age 21. Services will be Tuesday, May 31st at City Light Church, 40th and Nickel Streets. Memorials to the City Light office in Omaha. O'Shea, Cynthia B. O'Shea, age 61. There will be cremation, no services. Arrangements provided by the Brahmin Mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel. Pogenpole, Robert P. Pogenpole, aged 88. Massive Christian burial Tuesday, May 31st at 10 a.m. at Christ the King Church. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association or Christ the King Church. Arrangements by Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Ramirez, Deacon Joseph Jose Ramirez, age 89. Massive Christian burial at 10 a.m. Tuesday at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. Arrangements provided by Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Reagan, Kathy L. Reagan, age 62, of Bradyville, Iowa. Funeral service 2 p.m. Saturday, May 28th at the Walker Merrick Funeral Home in Clarinda, Iowa. Memorial suggested to the SWI Humane Society in Clarinda. Arrangements provided by the Walker Merrick Funeral Home. Ryan, Barbara C. Ryan, age 85. Memorial suggested in lieu of flowers to the family. A memorial service will be at 11 a.m. Tuesday at Hope Presbyterian Church. Arrangements provided by the Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Crematory. Sheehy, Ann Thaler Sheehy, age 73. Memorials to St. Thomas for More Education Funder for Masses. And it just has a memorial service, 11 a.m. at the mortuary, which is Carrasco Larkin Stasquid's Funeral Home. Toughness, Carol Wright Toughness, age 75. In lieu of flowers, donations to the Girl Scouts of America or Planned Parenthood. Services Saturday, May 28th at the mortuary, which is the Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler West Center Chapel. And finally, for Omaha, Zimmerman, Leonard E. Zimmerman, aged 82. Funeral service Tuesday, May 31st at 11 a.m. at the Bellevue Memorial Chapel of Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler. Memorials to the Hospice House. Arrangements provided by Hefe Hoffman Dvorak Cutler, the Bellevue Chapel. And now we'll go to the Lincoln Journal-Star memorials. Anchor, Mildred W. Anchor, age 94 of Lincoln. Services 10 a.m. Saturday at Butheris Mazer and Love Funeral Home. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association, arrangements by Butheris Mazer and Love Funeral Home. Let's see. Davison, Galvin Joseph Davison, infant son of Drew and Kayla, born on May 19, 2016 at Bergen Mercy Hospital. A graveside service will be held 2 p.m. Saturday, May 28th at St. James Catholic Cemetery in Portland. Arrangements provided by the Butheris Mazer and Love Funeral Home. Fur, Houghton Fur Jr. of Lincoln, age 73. Services are pending. Arrangements by the Wyuka Funeral Home. Cowell, Kenneth M. Cowell, age 68 of Crete. Graveside services are at 10:30 p.m., it says. I wonder if that's not a.m. Tuesday, May 31st at the Riverside Cemetery in Crete. It looks like funeral services are provided by the Kunkel Funeral Home. Lauer, Harold W. Lauer, age 83. Celebration of life will be 2:30 p.m. Sunday, May 29th at the First Plymouth Chapel. Replogle, Gregory L. Replogle, out of Beatrice, age 69. There's no further information. Witt, Dolores J. Witt Fairbury, age 87. I'm sorry, there's no further information. Floth, Reverend Stanley W. Floth, 77, and from Adams. The service of resurrection will be at 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, May 31st at the American Lutheran Church in Adams. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to the family to be divided between 4 organizations that touched the life of Stanley. Leschner, Gary Leschner, out of Lincoln, age 72. Mendenhall, Catherine Mendenhall, out of Humboldt, age 94. Mickelson, Frances Martha Dugan Mickelson, age 92. A celebration of life will be held on Monday, May 30th at the Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church in Lincoln. In lieu of flowers, memorials will be given to the Matt Talbot Kitchen and the Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church, both of Lincoln. Nguyen, Hi Van Nguyen, age 77 of Tecumseh. Turner, Barbara A. Turner of Lincoln. Edward Schmazel, age 63 of Round Rock, Texas. Services will be held at 10 a.m. Saturday, the 28th at Calvary Community Church in Lincoln. And finally, Williams, Dennis R. Williams of Indianapolis, Indiana, age 67. Now, listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. And we thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter. Now it's time for our break, but Jean and I will be back with opinion, living, business, and sports.
All right.
I don't know if you need these.
Okay, so how did the wedding go?
I guess it went really good, but my sister has not called me once to tell me about that wedding. Why? I don't understand
They
that.
made a video of it.
Well, okay, Courtney didn't want one, and her dad.
Why?
Well, they're expensive for one, but she didn't.
Oh,
want
they're
to, but she
expensive.
didn't want to be nervous.
Oh,
So her dad and her stepmom wanted one, and she kept telling him no. The stepmom brought a video camera and made the boyfriend of one of the bridesmaids film the whole thing.
I should have it. It's so beautiful to watch.
I know, but she wasn't too happy. And I guess Abby was telling me, Abby showed me more pictures, and she showed me her prom picture. She looks so
Oh
beautiful.
my gosh.
She has, for the girl who worried and who was heartbroken about having friends, Abby has a lot
Yeah,
of
that's
friends.
so beautiful.
Oh, all the girls, all kids
I
are
know they're-
beautiful.
not
How's your
all, I
grandson?
know.
And oh yes,
They're beautiful.
I
He's
mean,
at science camp right now.
how's he enjoying it? Have
He
you heard
loves
from
it. He
him?
gets all A's.
Now, is he away for the whole time, or does he go home during the night?
He's at the Oklahoma University.
Oh, so they
on
stay there.
campus,
They
huh?
stay overnight.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm,
okay.
mhm.
I worry about your family down there with those tornadoes, but they have a shelter, right? You said they built a shelter.
They built one, a ready-made one and set it in the ground right next to their house.
That's good.
Yeah, because they can't build basements down
Why
there.
is that?
Oh, the soil's real sandy or something. Yeah.
Because we're so close to them, you would think, well, not that close, I guess.
Yeah.
But
They're down more in the southern part where they can grow pecan trees and all kinds of stuff like. They're going to plant an orchard of stuff. Yeah, I know.
honestly, it sounds you've got to take a trip. If you
I
need
wish
someone to take a trip
The
with you,
arthritis is too hard.
too hard.
I can't sit for very long. I have to get up and move. Yeah.
Do you know the zoo has motorized wheelchairs?
They do.
They have little cars that you can just rent there and take you
Oh,
around. You
I
should
didn't know. I
go.
should do that.
I don't know. You'd have to go real early in the morning because I see their first come first serve. But Jean, you would love that.
I
I
should
don't.
do that.
You should call them. I don't know if there's a charge for it. I don't think
Probably,
so.
maybe.
I don't know. I was thinking about taking
I
Jean.
probably hit everybody.
No, well, my mom couldn't drive one of those for no love nor money. We tried to take her to the store, and those ones at Walmart where they go like this. She couldn't figure it out.
No. I am.
Do you know I bought my mom pot once for the pain? She was suffering so much that I thought, and she couldn't smoke it. She smoked cigarettes, but she couldn't figure out it went. I was like, well, we tried. I tried everything for her.
My daughter's father-in-law had cancer, and they got him pot, and it kept him going. It brought his appetite
That's
back.
right, the appetite,
And he
feel
lived
better.
for 2 or 3 years longer than they gave him.
See, I believe in that.
I do too.
believe in that. I totally do. But my mom couldn't smoke it. But now they have extracts.
Candy.
Yeah, now they have
And
it.
the cookies should probably be doing good. Yeah, it's a shame they don't use it for medicine.
Well, they do in other states,
Oh,
But
yeah. Iowa's been fighting it.
Nebraska
They use
fight it
a
too.
liquid. They don't even use the regular pot.
Isn't that crazy?
They extract it from the cannabis.
I tried it for her. I tried everything for my mom for pain. I did.
Did
but
she have cancer?
She died of lung cancer. So and I've been smoking so much.
That's
Jane.
what,
I
yeah.
gotta quit. Because I smoke only about this much, but I smoke really, really fast. My roommate she's always on me about
You
how I
get the
smoke.
kick from it right away, so you're okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm done. I don't want to smoke the rest of it. I just want that initial.
It's like a shot, yeah.
It's just terrible. It's a terrible addiction. But what are you going to do this? I'm off for 5 days.
You are.
I was off yesterday, and I'm off on Monday for the holiday, and I took Tuesday off. So I have 5 straight days.
You get paid for your
Oh
vacation?
yeah, my vacation. Yeah, I have.
I mean, you get
I
paid.
have 6 weeks a year of
Oh
vacation.
my God.
I try not to use it, but I burn through it really
Does
fast.
it add up over the years? Oh, that's cool.
So I
That's unusual.
well, you got to dump it after a while. If
Oh,
you
do
get
you?
so much, you have
After
to.
so long.
It costs the company money, so they want you to dump it.
Well, sure.
So I have friends who've kept theirs over the years because our state is one in which they can't make you dump it.
Oh,
But
cool.
I try and help the company out.
If you're
'cause
older, use it toward retirement after you retire.
That'd be nice. That would be nice.
When I worked for the Federal Land Bank, that's what a lot of people did.
They kept their
They saved it and then had all that paid
vacation.
when they retired.
I think maybe they allow us just a little bit, but they don't. I don't know how many weeks you can carry over. But anyway, 6 weeks that's a month and a half a year. So I really work only. What do I work? 10 and a half months.
You're like a teacher.
Is that 10 and a half months a year?
Like
11?
teachers get the summers.
That
My
would be nice.
granddaughter, Sarah, up in Chicago,
She gets the summers off with her
gets
kids.
to be with her.
How is her little boy doing? Have you heard?
He's walking. He's about 18 months now. He's adorable. I
He's
should
keeping her busy,
bring
isn't
some
he?
pictures of them. They're so
Oh
cute.
yes, bring them. And the
They're
girls,
coming down.
Are they?
She has a teachers conference in Denver. And she's going to drive out, and Jacob, my grandson's going to help her with the 3 kids. So
Just her and
he's
him.
back in town now, which I wished he wasn't. I don't like him to be around Constable. He's ran around with some kids that were,
No good.
and a girlfriend that none of us wanted to be hooked
How
up
long's he gonna be here? For the whole summer or just a little while?
Probably maybe about 3 or 4 weeks, and then he'll start back.
How's school going for him?
I don't think too good.
It's hard for him.
He has ADD, and
Do they have
he
special
always has
classes?
girlfriends in the background. I don't know what's going to happen to him.
He'll find something.
He'll find. I don't care what he does as long as it's honest.
And then it provides a good income for him.
You get one that doesn't do too good, and the other one does super. It's the way it is in a family.
Look at my nephew. He can't even go to school. He can't go down to. I
The
know.
little boy in your family.
Central. You met him. He went
Oh,
to
he's adorable. I mean, he's beautiful. Oh my
All
God.
kids are.
That whole family is gorgeous. I'm not kidding.
Well, all
Oh.
kids are cute.
And
But
he is
he
so.
can't.
Does he have ADD?
He's too smart.
Oh,
He
he's
doesn't have
real
to
smart.
study. He doesn't have to
Oh, he's
study.
super smart.
So he
and
decides not to
good-looking.
go to
Good
school.
looking too.
Yeah, but he doesn't go to school. He doesn't want to go. And he had no, look at his mother. She has no,
Yeah,
and then his dad, he has no dad, just abandoned. The
I
only
know.
boy he had. That was wrong.
Yeah, it's with Jacob.
Isn't it just sad? It's just hard.
He could, with his smarts and looks, he could be anything.
He told me he wants to be a voice actor, and I don't even think he has a good voice. I thought maybe I told him he should be a pilot.
He could be a model.
A drone pilot, because he could go up to South Dakota where they teach all those drone pilots.
Yeah.
And because he's good at video games,
Mhm.
that would be fun, I think, and something maybe he'd like
That's
to
where
do.
they have the guys that run the towers.
Yeah, that's where they
I was
teach.
trying to send my grandson up there years ago. We actually went and visited the one at the airport down here back then. They could take him up into the
Oh
tower.
my God, how do you like it?
He wasn't that interested. He's doing something else. He's real good now at what he does. But yeah, I wish
Every kid is
I don't
different.
know what to do about it. But that nephew could be a model. I mean, just temporarily.
Don't
He
tell
could
him
make
that.
money. Oh,
Don't tell him that.
oh, I would.
He's gonna be tall enough too, so
He'd be
just
gorgeous.
all kids, but
No,
he's
not
just-
all kids are that good looking.
He doesn't have motivation, and it's scary.
See, that's the thing. That's with Jacob. There's no motivation. What motivated me?
Thank you. And we're back with opinion. So let's start with the public pulse. A plan to help the Riverfront Old Market, an amusement park in the Riverfront area in downtown Omaha with local food trucks providing various types of food, sounds like a good idea. That also might solve the problem of food trucks cutting into the business of the restaurants in the old market and could be a profitable venture for everyone. Signed, Bob Christensen.
I know the legislative session has just ended, but I have a suggestion for the future ones that would be important to public safety. I believe there is a way to dramatically reduce distracted driving, which is responsible for many accidents. Pass a law that would allow insurance companies to deny claims for liability or damages when it can be shown that a driver was texting, messaging, or using a cell phone while driving. This would provide significant financial incentive to drivers not to break the law. Jerry Mitchell of Bellevue.
And let's look at why Congress doesn't want Donald Trump elected president. First off, most of its members don't get along very well, but they have had it their way for decades. Remember when Republicans would say if we only controlled the House, we could get so much done? Voters gave them control and nothing happened. Then they said it was the Democratic Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's fault, so voters gave them control of the Senate. Again, nothing happened. Before that, Democrats ruled for what seemed like forever and nothing happened. So what to do? Trump is not like them. He thinks on his feet. He says what he thinks and feels and is not always politically correct. He is very smart. He will not run around the world and apologize to other countries. He will control our borders. He will address our enemies and make this country safe again. He will let generals run the wars. He scares the politicians in Washington. They've had it their way for so long they forgot why he sent them there. They've forgotten they work for us. We're going down a very dangerous path. We have a strong leader, and that is why we need an outsider. I pray to God it's not too late to turn the U.S. around. Signed, Bart Brotbinger.
And not Abe's GOP. Two May 23rd public pulse riders repressed outrage at the Obama administration's order that public schools must permit transgender students to use bathrooms and locker rooms consistent with their identity. They say it will allow men to violate the sanctity of women's restrooms and is turning on its head state officials. We Democrats are sadly watching the demise of the Republican Party that once could think clearly about the principles of the Constitution. I don't think Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, or Richard Nixon would understand today's extreme right Republicans. The Constitution is the right document to be consulted. It is not political correctness out of control to uphold the rights of privacy and freedom embodied in the First and Fourth Amendments. No state has the right to invade the privacy and injure the dignity of our kids because the government has decided they are different. The federal government once again has to step in and restrain states from abusing its citizens. That's what Abe and Teddy and Ike did years ago, thank God. Jim Boucher of Valley, Nebraska.
And from Omaha, the May 20th, more commentary by longtime Democratic Party advocate E.J. Dionne Jr. Democrats must tamp down the anger, extols Bernie Sanders and his supporters, to make peace with the Hillary Clinton and her supporters. He then cites the legendary American socialist, Michael Harrington, who advocates visionary gradualism. So apparently, with Barack Obama and eventually with Hillary Clinton, the country will achieve central planning socialism utopia with most everything free. It will take just a little longer than it would have under President Sanders, signed Vic Massera.
And as I read the May 22nd Aaron Grace column about the aftermath of the state championship game between Omaha South and Creighton Prep, I put aside timely rivalry. I teared up a bit. Being a supporter of athletics all my life, some things in sports get to me. This was one of them. My grandson was the keeper for Prep, and I know his heart fell to his knees as the self-goal trickled into the net. However, the pictures in the article tell it all. It's only a game. Sports can really break down the racial barriers. From Frank Kokotala of Papillion.
Thank you, Jean. And turning now to the living section from Heloise. Dear Heloise, I've been using those coloring books for adults lately.
No.
The designs allow you to create beautiful pictures. It's relaxing, with my only thought being, how do I get color in that little space without going over the lines? My handwriting has even improved. But the thought of those pictures stored away doesn't appeal to me. Displaying them in a bright spot in a nursing home or hospital does. I trim the picture, glue it to a cardstock, and donate it. I share the happiness. These books are sometimes used for rehab when a hand is damaged, or if a person needs to use the other hand. Signed, Roberta in Fairborn, Ohio. And Heloise writes, the coloring books are readily available at large retailers. Grab some and some colored pencils too. This would be a great donation project for a youth or scouting troop to give to a retirement community. Signed, Heloise. Dear Heloise, my friend who has lost her sight enjoyed my gift of wind chimes. It makes a lovely gift for all occasions. When you hear the pretty tones, you think of the person who gave it to you. Signed, Carol in Cortland, Ohio. Dear Heloise, printing travel directions on the computer is easy, helpful, and convenient. But I always write the phone number of the place I'm going to at the top of the page in case I need to contact the company anyway. This saves time and fumbling. Dear Heloise, I look forward to reading your column every day, and I'd like to contribute. I was wondering what I could get my mom that she doesn't already have. Mom is a senior citizen, and no doubt she has found that her kitchen cabinet shelves have gotten higher.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
A folding step stool is much safer than climbing on a chair, and another useful gadget is a grab hook that can bring down boxed food items or pick up items that drop low. And a booster seat in her bathroom can be a welcome gift if getting up and down isn't as easy as it once was. Signed, Mary in West Concord. And Heloise writes, that's practical and helpful, and safety first. Dear Heloise, those pocket-sized fingernail clippers usually are too slick, and your thumb slips off frequently. Cure, paint that spot with 1 to 3 coats of fingernail polish. When dry, gently scratch the surface with anything sharp. Voila, a non-slip surface. Dear Heloise, before putting on disposable gloves to clean the kitchen and dishes, I slather lotion on my hands and cuticles. The heat generated conditions the skin, and I'm left with a tidy kitchen and soft hands. That's a great
That's a good
idea.
idea.
I always have dry, horrible hands.
And on the front page of the living section, it shows a rabbi hugging Simon Murphy during a confirmation ceremony at the Omaha's Temple, Israel. Israel, the rabbi, will retire Tuesday after 28 years as senior rabbi at the Temple Israel. Rabbi Israel stepped into an Omaha pub one recent evening to talk about a topic loaded with landmines, religion. He joined a Christian minister and a local Muslim leader for an informal discussion. They talked about the similarities and differences in their faiths. The rabbi started the conversation and was right in step with his long tenure as senior rabbi. He retires this month from that post after 28 years. He has focused on strengthening not only his congregation, but also the Omaha community. A dinner celebrating him and his wife is today at the Hilton. He is known for his interfaith work, marked more recently by his leadership in the effort to create an Omaha campus with places of worship for Christians, Muslims, and Jews. The 66-year-old Israel, friends and colleagues say, also has displayed energy, passion, and perseverance on community issues, including fair housing, welfare, reform, and gun violence. He has spoken on controversial issues. He's not afraid to speak his mind, said Bob Freeman, a friend. He has been a stellar representation of the Jewish community. It's about mending and fixing a world, said the rabbi. It's not mending done for me or you. It's done for the sake of God. He said he soaked up examples of that teaching as a young boy from his mother. He was born in 1949 in Israel. His parents were drawn from Bulgaria. When he was 6 months old, he was diagnosed with polio, and the doctors said he would never walk again. His mother was determined that her son would prove them wrong. He remembers her carrying him to a medical appointment, and if she wasn't satisfied with the doctor, she would take him to another specialist. She never gave up. By the time he was 14, after surgeries and rehab, he did walk. He studied geography and the Bible at Tel Aviv University. He was inspired by the synagogue, and it opened his eyes to celebrating Judaism. Came to the United States in 1973 to be a counselor at a Jewish summer camp. In the fall of 74, he moved to Chicago. In 1980, he enrolled at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in Cincinnati. He's there for you, everyone said, old and young, rich and poor, active in the temple or not. He was there. That's neat.
That is very neat.
Especially such a good example to the community.
Yes. And from the pulpit today, we will start with Reverend Gary Eller from the Westminster Presbyterian Church. John Wesley encouraged his followers to be much about in busyness. He would have liked the Gospel of Mark. Mark is one of the busiest of the Gospels. In Mark, things happen right now, immediately. Mark is the fast-forward Gospel. But sometimes doing what Jesus would do means doing nothing. That can be hard, especially for folks who are doers. The disciples came to Jesus, and what do? They tell him all the stuff that they have done. And what did Jesus tell them? Don't do it. Go instead to a deserted place with me. The last 3 weeks I had to stop doing so much. After surgery, that was harder than dealing with the pain. I struggled against the idea. My computers were just in the next room at home, and the cell phone is handy. Then I realized that the surgeon was right when he said take it 4 to 6 weeks to get over this. One of the blessings of that required retreat is time to reflect. I have come to believe that the ability to retreat is an act of faith. It's not being lazy, it's the realization that we are all mortal, that we do not and cannot save ourselves. Indeed, a person who cannot take time off is someone who confuses themselves with God. That's bad faith. That's like saying there is no God, it's all up to us. The other day, somebody said within earshot, Henry has done a great job of retirement. It takes a lot of grace to retire. Yes, it does. That's why a lot of people flunk retirement. They have now not dealt with their need to be needed. If Jesus could withdraw during the height of his public ministry, then why can't we? Jesus was a worker. He healed, he preached, he taught, he fed a multitude, but he also withdrew. He put down what he was going to do to recover and who he was. What he did was never as important as who he was. According to the psalmist, it was God who keeps creating, who neither slumbers nor sleeps, so that we can.
That's neat.
It is.
And from Dear Amy, demands for apologies strain sister's relationship. Dear Amy, my sister often shares that she is upset about things I did or said years ago. Her pain is real, but I honestly don't remember the event she's talking about. These are often small interactions. For instance, that I didn't lend her a sweater 23 years ago. I'm not comfortable apologizing for something I don't even remember. If I offer an apology that I'm sorry she's upset, it's not good enough because it doesn't apologize for my actions. If I say I cannot remember, she says that I don't need to, that I should trust her memory and apologize. If I don't, she'll stop speaking to me often for months with conditions attached for when I may call or contact her. For instance, when I disregarded her instructions and sent her a birthday card, she told me I was disrespectful. It's a vicious cycle of apologize for years ago and prolonged silence. Is there a way to break this cycle, or is it out of control? Is it reasonable to always listen and only engage in apologies that I remember? How much time is reasonable for a person to process how they're feeling? Is it disrespectful of me to make my own decisions? Between a rock and a hard place. Dear Between, your sister is a difficult and challenging person. If you want to have a relationship with her, are you sure you do? You will have to engage in equal measures of patience. This interpersonal game that she's playing is one that requires two players. I suggest that you do whatever you want to do from here on, as long as it's respectful. Before fulfilling any demand, ask yourself, do I want to do this? Is this in my best interest? You might choose to tell her, I am not playing the apology game anymore. As you alter your reactions, your sister may act out with more ferocity. If she doesn't like your behavior, she will have to find a way to cope with it without insisting that you bend to her will. She is testing you by trying to control you. If she seems persistently unhappy or anxious, you should recommend that she see a counselor, because what ails her is something that you cannot fix. Read Emotional Blackmail: When the People in Your Life Use Fear, Obligation, and Guilt to Manipulate You by Susan Forward and Dana Frazier. I'd like to read that myself.
Thank you, Jean. And from Rabbi Aria Azrael, I enjoyed The Illusionist. It's a movie about old Europe, intrigues, murder, and magic. I love magic shows. The sleight of hand, sorcery. It's a promise of irrevocable logic conquered, of course, inevitable destiny turned on its head, of impossible alchemy wondrously manufactured. When the occult takes over, we are released from the discipline of mind and from the probability of reality. Without sweat or tears, our world is miraculously and effortlessly transformed. New Age practices appear very much to encourage this fearful dip into mindless spirituality. The term New Age encompasses a wide range of beliefs that stress the paranormal or the harnessing of untrapped mental powers, through such means as rock crystals, clairvoyance, and astrology. The underlying principle is that life is essentially a magic show. I have been concerned of late about this quest for New Age spirituality. Spirituality has been the legitimacy of the Jewish tradition. Some young people, however, fall prey to the New Age sleight of hand practices. They yearn for escape from spiritual experiences that stress the cultivation of mind and responsibility instead of the release from logic and the escape from personal duty. Judaism drew on the unbridgeable chasm between itself and fairy tales. I have emphasized in the past three major pathways of our heritage. Torah, the honing of intellect. Spirituality is the experience of sharing the book's truths. Come and witness the Saturday morning Torah study in the temple's Midler Center from 9:15 to 10:30 a.m. It's a spiritual delight. The second pathway to Jewish spirituality I have called at-homeness. Being at home with venerable traditions and historic memories is an antidote to alienation and loss of identity. At-homeness shapes our rootedness in life and eternity, establishes a continuum of meaning and destiny that warms the heart day by day when we practice Judaism in our homes and our families. At home in the world, we also sense the awesome beauty of God's universe. Nature's handiwork reveals God's rationality, not a demon's malevolence. Jewish spirituality is cultivated as well by connections to community. These connections are the product of a commonly shared commitment to shape history for the better. Intrinsic to Judaism is an unyielding belief in tomorrow, a celebration of life. We demonstrate our confidence in history by shaping a caring community through tzedakah. I'm not saying that right. Tzedakah requires a sharing of our well-being with others. The joyous uplift from tzedakah is the authentic Jewish spirituality. Jewish spirituality, in short, is a doorway into life, not an escape hatch out of it. We welcome the bright summer of 2016 with joyous expectations.
And the last letter from Dear Amy. Dear Amy, I have been invited to attend a bridal shower for a family member. Rather than register for gifts, this couple, who have 2 children, have asked for money to fund their honeymoon. Their household is already established, and I anticipated their wedding invitation will have the same request. This seems tacky and very distasteful to me. Has the new millennial giving etiquette declined to begging for money? Thanks for your insight. Baby boomer, dear baby boomer, the practice of giving money to newly married people is very old and quite common in some cultures. This couple is not begging for money. They are answering the question that many friends and family members ask, what can we get you? This sort of registry has become more common recently as lifestyles change. Some couples set up actual honeymoon registries where guests can treat them to different experiences while they are on their wedding trip. Some ask for honeymoon money and, I assume, pay their utility bills or wedding expenses with it. If you don't want to give money to the family, then don't. Being registered for something specific does not make it mandatory. It is merely there to help guests decide. And the last one here, Dear Amy, Daddy Flat had a daughter who wanted to stop her piano lessons. I agree with your advice and the music teacher who quoted in your answer to allow the child to stop playing. However, I would also suggest that the child should have to continue the lessons until the end of the school year. Letting her quit immediately is rewarding her bad behavior. Setting the time limit teaches the child to finish rather than quit. From Dad, Dear Dad, excellent advice. Children who want to drop a sport or other activities should be prompted to finish out the season, so that stopping is less like quitting and more like simply not signing up for something else.
Thank you. And finally, from Reverend Mark Fry of the Streams of Life Church. As a person who reads the daily newspaper, I can easily become the get off my lawn guy if I don't catch myself. When Jesus tells his audience to look at the birds of the air in Matthew 6:26, I appreciate and welcome the attitude adjustment if I allow myself. I like looking at the birds, and I'm not talking about the turkeys, ducks, pheasants, and chickens on the menu. Every summer, my wife and I find it very enjoyable to put grape jelly on our deck as a means of attracting Baltimore Orioles.
Oh.
The beautiful immigrants found the prize about 2 weeks ago, and we have already gone through at least 6 jars. Orioles are beautiful and enjoy watching them enjoy what we provide. What do we learn when we take Jesus' advice to look at the birds? Birds are hard workers and they don't worry about day-to-day existence. Why should they worry? They have someone who provides for them. And it isn't me or my wife. It's God who feeds them. They enjoy what we have and they don't worry about tomorrow. Pardon the pun, but there seems to be a pecking order with the birds. The Orioles are constantly competing with the sparrows and the robins for the jelly that was intended for them.
Bet.
And it can get ugly. We can learn from the birds to be more gracious and generous and not to be motivated by irrational fears of scarcity. There's more jelly where that came from. Henry Newman is one of my favorite authors. He wrote in Bread for the Journey that life is precious, not because it's unchangeable like a diamond, but because it's vulnerable like a little bird. To love life means loving its vulnerability, asking for care, attention, and guidance and support. Life and death are connected by vulnerability. The newborn child and the dying elder both remind us of the preciousness of our lives. Let's not forget the preciousness and vulnerability of life during the times that we are powerful, successful, and popular. Thankfully, ornithology is not just for nerds anymore, and it's for all of us. Look at the birds and appreciate what they bring. There's so much more to come.
I love to watch them.
Me too.
And the new play at the Omaha Playhouse is called The Producers.
Oh.
It says all of the Playhouse's many talents are on display in this one. At the Producers on Thursday, I found myself asking, how do they do it? How does the Omaha Community Playhouse, a nonprofit local theater, make productions look so sharp? How do they lure such talented costume and set designers, outstanding musicians and actors? And how do they do it on a budget, with a mixture of paid staff and volunteers? I wondered that after learning how props master Darren Keeler created cost-effective dancing pigeons. However, it happened. The Playhouse got its money's worth on this show. It's visually stunning, musically sound, and laugh until you can't breathe funny. It is the perfect, let's see here, go down here a little bit. It is the perfect dote for the gloomy days that we've had recently. 6 lead actors have much to do with the show's success. Steve Kramebeck as Leo Bloom and Jim McCain as Max Bialystok, the shady characters, seem like they've been in a comic duo for years. Their charming innocent plays well off of cynicism and greed as they conjure up a plot to create a Broadway flop, a musical called Springtime for Hitler. They abscond with the money. Max cons out of sex-crazed little old ladies, and both have amazing diction and strong voices. So can Lindsay Usery, who plays sweet and savvy Swedish actress Ola. She can really dance, and 3 gifted actors provide some of the show's most hilarious moments. Granted, they have great material to work with, starting with these characters, but you would expect that from Mel Brooks, who wrote Blazing Saddles. Creating a show about 2 guys who want to stage the world's worst show gave him the opportunity to be his best. Irreverent, sarcastic, and sly. Brooks, in short, is a genius with words. Some of the best lines in the musical as a happy Hitler in an elaborate production, I'm the German, Ethel Merman. He sings as he strips off his uniform to reveal skimpy leather shorts and a muscle shirt. The show includes the writer's usual asides to the audience. He is also a master at production numbers. Scenic and lighting designer Jim Oldhus and costume designer Amanda Fellner spared no effort in creating numerous scenes and outfits. And I have to offer a word about those dancing pigeons operated by an actor off stage. They must be like puppets. They went off without a hitch, and their little helmets and precise movements were a huge hit with the crowd. Nearly every seat at Thursday's performance was filled, despite the severe weather. God, I gotta go see that. Dancing pigeons. Yeah, I gotta see those animals.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
And today from history, the quote is from Cora May Harris, a U.S. writer who lived from 1869 to 1935. The bravest thing you can do is when you are not brave, is to profess courage and act accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And today, May 28, 1533, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, declared the marriage of England's King Henry VIII to Anne Boleyn valid.
Wow.
In 1892, on this day, the Safe Era Club was organized in San Francisco. In 1912, the State Commerce Committee issued its reports on the Titanic disaster that cited a state of absolute unpreparedness, improperly tested safety equipment, and indifference to danger as some of the causes of an unnecessary tragedy.
Hmm.
In 1929, the first all-color talking picture, On with the Show, produced by Warner Brothers, opened in New York.
Wow.
In 1937, President Franklin D. Roosevelt pushed a button in Washington signaling that vehicular traffic could begin crossing the just-opened Golden Gate Bridge in California.
Wow.
In 1940, during World War II, the Belgian army surrendered to the invading Germans. In 1945, the novel Brideshead Revisited by Ellen Waugh was published in London by Chapman Hall. In 1959, the U.S. Army launched Able, a rhesus monkey, and Baker, a squirrel monkey, aboard a Jupiter missile for a suborbital flight, which both primates survived. In 1961, Amnesty International had its beginnings with the publication of an article in the British newspaper The Observer and Forgotten Prisoners. And finally, in 1998, comic actor Phil Hartman of Saturday Night Live and News Radio fame was shot to death at his home in Encino, California by his wife, Bryn, who had then killed herself. And today's birthdays, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani is 72. Singer Gladys Knight is 72. Actress director Sandra Locke is 72. Singer John Fogerty is 71 today. Senator Marco Rubio is 45. Television personality Elizabeth Hasselbeck is 39.
Wow. And a retail roundup from the money section. A new owner opens Rosie Jane, a children's clothing and gift shop. A new children's clothing and gift shop is open near 50th and Leavenworth Streets. Rosie Jane opened earlier this month at 5018 Leavenworth. In addition to children's clothing, it features gifts for kids and moms. The owner is Amy Sporer. Sporer also owns Home Decor and Gift Boutique, Spruce, two doors down from Rosie Jane. She began selling some children's items at that store, and then the space opened up. I really like the whole neighborhood and the resurgence that seemed to be starting here. 3 people were hired to staff Rosie Jane, which is named after Sporer's mother. Never heard that combination. It's kind of cute. The shop will host a grand opening July 9th, which is the mother's birthday. And the University of Nebraska fans will be able to tailgate in style this fall with new Husker-themed Weber grills. The company is making the portable Weber Q 1200 gas grills with customized themes. In addition to Nebraska, the other schools include Auburn, Florida State, Michigan, Texas, and Wisconsin. The grills feature custom lids reflecting each university's colors and logos. They will be available on Weber.com beginning this summer for $299. Weber also will host a kickoff event in Lincoln when the Huskers play Oregon. And Scooter's Coffee will open 2 new Omaha area stores by the end of summer. They will be at the northeast corner of 144th and Maple and 84th Street and Park Avenue. And a new AT&T store is open at 72nd Street and Cornhusker Road. The 3,000 square foot store will offer customer service, devices, and accessories.
Thanks, Eugene. And cold brews heat up. The coffee industry is getting ready for its very own big chill, nationally and in the Midlands. Coffee makers from global giants JAB and Illy to smaller upstarts such as High Brew, Lacombe, and Chameleon Cold Brew are putting their brews on ice. Locally, too, coffee shops say more customers are choosing iced drinks. Coffee companies are introducing high-end, ready-made chilled coffee in bottles and cans, betting the U.S. grocery shoppers will embrace yet one more way to get their caffeine jolt. Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, and other beverage makers are jumping in. And a Starbucks-Pepsi partnership, which has long dominated packaged cold brew, also has introduced new chilled brews. Sugary iced coffee concoctions such as Starbucks Frappuccinos have been popular for years, But now baristas and coffee bars are seeing an increased demand for more sophisticated iced espressos and lattes. Many now say they serve more cold coffee than hot, even during the winter.
Really?
For the fourth quarter of 2015, Starbucks reported a 20% increase in iced drink sales nationwide following its introduction of cold brew coffee in retail stores.
Do you drink iced coffee?
I am not a huge fan of coffee altogether, but I
Yeah.
do. I have to tell you, and this is my plea, if Warren Buffett's listening, Coca-Cola made a soda that was called a Coke Black,
Oh,
and it tasted like coffee and ginger ale maybe together. It was amazing, and they made it for
Wow.
such a short time.
oh,
But yeah,
that's too bad.
but I like just coffee after like a banquet ceremony,
Mhm.
like after a wedding when you've had your
Sure.
dessert.
Mhm.
But rarely. How about you? You
Well,
like coffee?
I like it at the Pancake House. I'll drink a whole pot of it then, but not usually otherwise.
And you don't like cold
No.
coffee? No.
And M&M's now has coffee M&M's.
Is it hot?
No, it's just you can taste the coffee in the chocolate.
I've seen that advertised, but I've never seen them in the
Yeah,
stores, and they have
yeah.
chili and something else.
Uh-huh,
But
yeah. They taste okay.
do they taste like coffee?
Yeah, they do. They do.
No, I like coffee flavored ice cream.
Yeah, then you'd
Or-
like the M&M's.
Or like Arby's, that Jamocha, isn't Jamocha shake?
yeah,
like
that's good. I
coffee?
love the coffee and chocolate.
Is
together,
that what that is?
Mhm.
The Jamocha shake. Let's go, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I like that, but I like iced chai. I like the chai.
Oh yeah, I like chai, but I've never had it iced.
Oh, it's good. It's very good, especially yeah. Okay, so for the fourth quarter, Starbucks reported 20% increase in iced drink sales nationwide following its introduction of cold brew coffee. Locally, at the Beansmith in the Old Market, iced drinks make up 30% of the sales at the moment.
And that's something.
That is something. And then iced coffee drinks can boost profit margins, we said, depending on the ratio of which mixers mix the coffee to water. Cold brew iced coffee is much more concentrated than traditionally brewed Joe, he said. I didn't know that.
I
Oh, well, they're
didn't
getting
either.
a lot of caffeine.
No
then,
wonder
gee.
they're drinking it.
Most makers use a 1-to-1 ratio, but at other shops it might be less. So he said, helping to goose profits. At Omaha-based Scooters, iced coffee sales are always higher in the summer, but remain strong through fall and winter. Scooters, like many chains, uses cold brew process for its iced coffee drinks. The method gives the coffee a less acidic flavor profile. Some people prefer it over a traditional cup. Iced coffee drinks also offer possibilities to experiment with flavors. Dunkin' Donuts, for example, last year had an ice cream flavors available for its iced coffee. The menu at Scooters features the candy bar drink, which can be customized to taste like any candy bar that comes in a wrapper.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the makers of coffee found in grocery store aisles are pushing to get higher end, lower calorie, and lower sugar cold brews into the shelves of Walmart, Kroger, Costco, and other stores. When given a choice, people tend to make the healthier, better for you choice, as long as it's within a reasonable cost premium, said Chris Campbell, founder of Chameleon Cold Brew, a company based in Austin, Texas, whose sales are growing at triple-digit rates. Wow. Ready-to-drink coffee in cans or bottles is natural evolution in consumer landscape, awash with premium coffee from countless coffee baristas. The U.S. ready-to-drink coffee market has been growing by double digits since 2011.
Wow.
Euromonitor International expects the market to reach as much as $3.6 billion by 2020. I know the global market stood at $18 billion in 2015, according to Euromonitor.
Jeez.
Michael Butterworth, a co-creator of Coffee Compass blog, says the cold coffees in the U.S. grocery shelves now have a long way to go in quality and taste.
Yeah.
But there's a proven market for those products, and they're going to see more and more of them. When the beverage industry looks to the future, it sees U.S. consumers craving ready-to-drink coffee at levels approaching those in Japan. Japan boasts the largest such market in the world, according to Andrea Illy, chairman and chief executive of the Illy Cafe Spa. Coca-Cola, which partners with Illy in the United States and other countries, sell more bottles and cans of coffee than anyone else
Isn't that
globally,
something?
largely due to sales in Japan. I never knew
It's
Japan.
amazing. I wouldn't think they would go.
There's been a recent burst of ready-to-drink coffee deal product making and product launches. Starbucks, which teams with PepsiCo for its grocery store coffee drink offerings, is introducing new sweetened and unsweetened bottled black coffee and cold brews this summer. The Starbucks PepsiCo partnership, which takes up about 75% of the ready-to-drink U.S. market, can do more consumer education in a week than we'll have in a year, said Campbell with Chameleon Cold Brewed Chief. Pete's Tea and Coffee, owned by Jab Holdings, now sells cold brew canned coffee since agreeing to acquire Stumptown Coffee in October 2015. Lacombe, backed with funding from Chobani Yogurt founder Hamdi Ulukala, plans to release its canned latte later this year in grocery stores around the country. The drink, which foams like a hot latte, when poured, sold briskly 10,000 cans in its first hour when offered online in March. Who knew? Last month, Dr. Pepper Snapple Group entered into distribution deal with High Brew Coffee, an independently beverage brew coffee started by David Smith. For Smith, who's counting on Dr. Pepper for its merchandising muscle, coffee is a second half. He co-founded Sweet Leaf. Oh, I love Sweet Leaf tea, which is sold to Nestle Waters North America in 2011. Cole discovered the virtues of cold brew coffee while in a 7-month sailing trip with his wife and 2 young children. Crossing from the island to island in the Caribbean, often at night, Smith found that standard coffee wasn't giving him the jolt he needed to stay alert. Although it takes 12 hours to make cold brew, the result delivers twice the caffeine punch of traditional brewing.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, I can see where it's growing with the youngsters.
Yeah.
I remember when my niece was always telling me she didn't drink soda at all, but she was caffeine free. Well, now those days are gone, and she enjoys those Starbucks things.
Oh, I know.
And the retail and the money they get from all of that.
An airbag recall grows to 12 million. 8 automakers call in more vehicles as the largest U.S. recall ever grows. In Detroit, 8 automakers are recalling more than 12 million vehicles in the U.S. to replace dangerous Takata airbag inflators. Documents detailing the recalls by Honda, Fiat, Toyota, Mazda, Nissan, Subaru, Ferrari, and Mitsubishi were posted Friday. The documents are part of a huge expansion of Takata airbag recalls announced earlier this month. 17 automakers are adding 35 million to 40 million inflators to what already was the largest auto recall in U.S. history. The Japanese Transport Ministry announced 7 million additional recalls related to the airbags. Those recalls cover all front airbags that do not have a chemical drying agent. U.S. recalls inside passenger airbags in older models in areas along the Coast Guard where they have high heat and humidity, but other areas are also affected. Takata uses the chemical ammonium nitrate to create a small explosion that inflates airbags in a crash. But the chemical can deteriorate over time when exposed to high heat and humidity. Then it burns faster than designated in a crash. That can blow apart a metal canister designed to control the explosion. It throws hot shrapnel into the vehicles.
Oh.
The inflators are responsible for at least 10 deaths and 100 injuries worldwide. 2 deaths in Malaysia are under investigation. The recalls detailed Friday are among the first to be unveiled by Takata. Research has found that it takes at least 6 years for the ammonium nitrate to deteriorate. Older models are getting priorities. Honda has the biggest recall, 4.5 million. Fiat Chrysler, 4.3 million. Honda, 27,000. And motorcycles, which I didn't know had airbags.
I didn't know that.
That's a good idea, though. Good idea.
Wow, it's interesting.
The latest recalls cover mainly front passenger airbag inflators. Wow, I didn't know motorcycles. That's a good idea, though.
Yes. And in some news briefs on the economy, wet weather has been plaguing Midland soybean farmers, flooding fields and slowing planting. While over half of the bean crop has been planted, some farmers are worried about getting the rest of their soybeans in the ground. This has helped boost prices, though, with July's soybean futures nearing $11 per bushel, the highest price in almost 2 years. And sugar prices exploded near a 2-year high this week, topping 17.5 cents per pound. Prices are rising as global demand stays strong in the face of shrinking supplies. Global sugar crops were hurt this year by the El Niño phenomenon, which brought dry weather to Thailand and India, the world's second and third largest sugar producers. I didn't know that.
No.
Meanwhile, prices have been boosted by investors who are buying the sweetener in hopes of a continued rise. While prices have already risen sharply from a low near 10 cents per pound, the sugar bulls are hoping the prices would return to 2011's high of over 36 cents per pound.
And the Hawkeyes in their baseball did something that has never been done in baseball history. They came through in the 9th inning to win 1 point over Ohio.
Isn't that
And
something?
it shows them all here celebrating. Yeah, because they had a good year last year with their football too.
Oh, my goodness.
Shows these kids just going wild. Iowa teammates mob Mason McCoy after his single scored Tyler Payton with a winning run in the 10th inning. The Hawkeyes' 4-run rally in the 9th was the largest in Ameritrade Park history. And the spark that Iowa needed for its improbable rally Friday can be traced back to one determined at-bat by the team leader, a do-everything senior who passed on the pros for moments like this. The count was 0-2, but Tyler Payton fouled off 4 straight pitches, passed on an offering outside the strike zone, then lined a hard-breaking slider. It initially seemed like a harmless hit to lead off the frame, especially considering that he was just the Hawkeyes' 5th base runner in the game. The Hawkeyes trailed 4-0.
Oh,
They were 4 behind
really?
against the hottest team in the Big Ten tournament. The feeling in Iowa dugout was different. It's something about Peyton, his grit, devotion, and attitude. The Hawkeyes feed off of his every move. He jump-started a late-season search to get them the number 8 seed in the conference tournament. He helped them upset the regular season champion Gophers Wednesday. Iowa scored four times in the 9th inning and clinched a 5-4 victory in the 10th inning. The Hawkeyes, 29-25, are now 1 win away from the conference tournament title game, and they have their two-way veteran to thank. Once Peyton got on, I knew that we had something special, said Nick Rossetti. The whole dynamic of the team switched. Everyone just started believing right then. Gosh, the 9th inning. I wish I could have watched that game. I would have gone hog wild.
I bet they loved
I
it.
know it. The 4th run rally marked the largest 9th inning comeback in Ameritrade Park history. The Hawkeyes had been 1-23 when trailing after 8 innings this year. Ohio State coach Craig Beals described Peyton's ninth inning display as professional hitting for a college guy. Peyton almost did go pro last summer, but decided to stay with the Hawkeyes. Oh,
my
gosh,
goodness.
isn't that something?
That maybe helped their winning. You know?
Yeah, the Hawkeyes are my team since I've moved back to Council Bluffs now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And from Toronto, LeBron James scored 33 points. Kevin Love had 20 points and 12 rebounds, and the Cleveland Cavaliers advanced to their 2nd straight NBA Finals by beating the Toronto Raptors 113-87 in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals Friday night. It's the 3rd Finals appearance in team history for the Cavaliers. Cleveland lost to Golden State in 6 games last year and was swept by San Antonio in 2007. For James, it is his 6th straight trip to the finals, including 4 with Miami. He broke the 30-point barrier for the first time this postseason and finished with 11 rebounds and 6 assists. I had to bring my game, he said. I had to be in the attack mode from the beginning. Kyrie Irving had 30 points and J.R. Smith had 15 for the Cavaliers, who will play Thursday against the winner of the Golden State-Oklahoma City series. Cleveland would open at home against Thunder, but that would be on the road against the 73-win Warriors, who trail 3-2 against Oklahoma City, leading into Saturday's Game 6. The Cavs will be seeking to end Cleveland's 52-year-old championship drought. the longest by any city in the last 3 professional teams. No Cleveland team has won it all since the Browns blanketed Baltimore 27-0 win in the NFL championship in 1964. Kyle Lowry scored 35 points, and DeMar DeRozan had 20 points. The deepest playoff run in Raptors team history ended, much to the disappointment of a sellout crowd of 20,605, dressed in red and white T-shirts and formed a maple leaf pattern on the underside of the court. Fans stood and cheered, "Let's go, Raptors, let's go," throughout most of the final 3 minutes. Toronto prolonged the series with back-to-back home wins in games 3 and 4, but never mounted much of a challenge in the conference champions in game 6, falling behind by 21 points in the third quarter. Excuse me.
That's amazing.
The Cavaliers came in at 0-4 at Air Canada Center, counting the regular season and playoffs, but looked much more like a team that handed the Raptors a trio of lopsided losses in Cleveland in this series. The Raptors pulled within 88-78 in the jumper by DeRozan with 10 minutes and 23 remaining, but James scored 6 points in a 14-3 run that gave the Cavs a 102-81 lead with about 6 minutes left.
Wow.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to cough there.
And in the NBA playoffs, the Warriors at Thunder. This is a win in Oklahoma City, and the Thunders are home free. The Thunder won't say they have to win Game 6 against the Golden State Warriors on Saturday to win the Western Conference, but the alternative is less than ideal. Win at home on Saturday, and Oklahoma City will advance to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. Lose, and they will be forced to play Game 7 in Oakland, California. The defending champion Warriors have lost 3 home games all season. Thunder coach Billy Donovan said his players don't need to get ahead of themselves about the results. We've got to play the 48 minutes tomorrow night. That's really what it comes down to. You can get caught up in thinking about the future and what the results mean, but the bottom line is the result at the end of the game. And what you don't want to do is focus on things beyond your control. Oklahoma City has done the job at home. The Thunder won Game 3, 133-105 in basketball. They tied a franchise record for points scored in a playoff game. The Thunder came back with more of the same in Game 4, 118-94 blowout. The Warriors knew it's going to take something special to produce a different result Saturday. It will take all of our IQ, our gamemanship, and just 48 great minutes to get a win down there. The Warriors saved their season with a 120-111 win Thursday over Oakland. Our guys have had a spectacular run here the last 2 years, said the coach. They've loved every second of it. They don't want it to end, and no matter how you look at it, you're not the last team standing. There have been some games in this series where we've done a good job. There are some where we need to do a better job. Golden State got a more typical effort from Curry on Thursday night after 2 games in Oklahoma City. He scored 31 points. I'll leave it there.
And Darryl Green said the NBLA continues to look at a potential teams for its first season, with several regional franchises among those being considered or vetted. The National Basketball League of America previously announced that the Omaha Chargers, Sioux City Hornets, and Dakota Magic as teams for its debut campaign expected to start in September. I didn't know we had a Nebraska team, here in Omaha.
In Omaha?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess they do.
In recent weeks, Green said conversations and negotiations with teams have included Colorado Kings, Siouxland Bison, and Cedar Valley Court Kings, all existing franchises. Another first-year team remains possible for Bismarck, North Dakota.
I don't know what they call them. Trying to think what it is.
I don't know. The teams are screened by the same procedure as players are screened to make sure they're the right fit, but we definitely welcome calls, said Green, the NBLA president and Omaha Chargers president. We expected people to contact us about joining the league, but I didn't know that would be actual teams. It would be actual teams that were formed. Green said the NBLA could consider aligning itself somehow with a premier basketball league. which has a season that runs January to April. But his initial plan is to create a league that fed into the National Basketball League of Canada season and play roughly 20 games scheduled between September and November. We're still doing our thing and our season, so if we do that, it would probably end up being an addition to what we already have going on, Green said. It all depends on what happens with the negotiation. Green expects most franchise decisions to be made by mid-June so that the NBLA can go forward with its planning season and create a schedule. And that brings us up to 12 o'clock, everybody. Oh my goodness.
We are here.
Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You look so beautiful. What are you doing this afternoon?
I'm gonna go get my hair cut. And
Really? It looks so cute today.
yeah,
You're
it
gonna
just
get-
needs to be shaped up.
I like it.
I just have them trimmed a little bit off and
Are you coming tomorrow or no? Here? No.
no, I don't read them.
No, you're not.
The
On
thing.
Saturdays.
I don't have to read.
So what are you gonna do? So you're gonna go get your hair cut? Where are you gonna get that done?
I go over to 72nd Hair Crafters. There's one gal there. She's I forget what country she's from. I talked to her about her family and everything. She's really, really good.
Good.
You know, I've never come away unhappy from her.
Well, that's good. You have
Yeah,
someone.
and
who-
see, I got all this hair down in here. It needs to be shaped.
Oh, you want it off more close to you?
Oh, yeah.
I
It
told Ann to
sticks
cut me.
out.
In the summer, it's more comfortable to
Yeah.
keep it short, isn't
This
it?
it sticks. My hair's so thick it sticks out, and I hate. And she shit even in the middle, especially trims it down real close.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do that.
And I'd
And
like
then-
to go visit that Rosie Jane's mother and child shop.
Are you gonna go see that
I've
at
got to.
52nd? That
And
would
then
really
there's that
nice.
home decoration place I love to look at.